So I got a bit bored reading in the cold and the rain in the UK, and I thought I would bring reading to somewhere warm. So here we are in the Dominican Republic. Now originally I packed 5 books, and then I bought 2 in the airport, and then I received quite a few for my birthday. So we've got lots of choices of stuff to read. So come and join me and find out what I read while I was on holiday. Hi, welcome back to Bookish Brummy. My name's Mel and I like to review books. So I normally have a weekly video where I review all of the books that I've read in the last week, but I haven't done that for the last couple of weeks, and the reason for that is because I've been on holiday, as you've probably seen from my intro, which I filmed on the beach in the Dominican Republic. So even though I haven't reviewed a book for the last 2 weeks, I've definitely been reading, and since the last weekly review I've read 7 books, so that's an absolutely huge amount to try and get through in one video. And I also have other things to say, like for example, I really want to talk about how a person goes on holiday with 5 books in their luggage and ends up coming back with 18. So I think what I'm going to do today is we're just going to have a little bit of a catch up. I thought we would look at the books that I actually took with me on holiday and why I actually took those ones with me, and then this will end up turning into a little bit of a haul, I guess, as to why I ended up picking up all of those extra books that I picked up on holiday, and I might lightly review 1 or 2 of them, but what I intend to do is to then publish separate videos reviewing all of those books so I can do them justice. And to be honest, because I have just been sat reading books back to back, I'm a bit jet lagged if I'm honest, because the flight is quite long from here to the UK, and I also had a layover in Miami that was medium length, but like long enough to make it a really long day. I mean, the travel time I think was roughly 24 hours door to door to get from the Dominican Republic back home. So I haven't really had time to sleep on all of the books that I've read yet or digest them properly. So I don't really want to go into reviews of all of them today, because I might not do them justice, and I just need time to think about them really. So let's start off with the question, how does a person go on holiday with 5 books in their hand luggage and end up coming back with 18? Well, the answer to that is, initially my flight out was very early in the morning, so it was just after 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, for book lovers, I'm sure we all do the same thing when we go on holiday. If we go through an airport, the one thing we like to do is we like to go to the bookstore in the airport and buy a book from there to read on holiday. I look forward to doing that. I think other people do as well. But because my flight was so early, I didn't think that the bookstore would be open, if I'm honest, because most of the stuff doesn't start to open until just before 6 o'clock, and obviously you have to get to your gate. So I couldn't really delay our flight because I was book shopping. So I thought I'm going to have to take all of the books that I'm potentially going to want to read I think I was away for about 8 or 9 days with me, and not really think that I'm going to pick any more up on the way. What I'm taking with me is going to have to make me last. So what I initially decided I was going to take out with me was Jane Casey, The Secret Room. So this is the final one in the Maeve Kerrigan series. So I read the A Stranger in the Family, which is the one before this, the other week, and I reviewed it. So this is the final one for me to read. So I definitely wanted to take that away with me to get to. I took away Stephen King, You Like It Darker, because I haven't read a Stephen King this month, and I actually thought short stories might be quite good, because when you sit down to read by the pool, or you sit down to read by the beach, you're being distracted by the things around you, aren't you? So you're not like fully necessarily concentrating on a story for 50 to 100 pages at a time, and I actually thought maybe a short story might be easier to focus on. I also took away Jazz by Toni Morrison, which is a book that I recently bought, which you'll have seen in my book 66 haul, just because I'm really looking forward to reading this novel. So I thought, it's actually not that long as well, so I thought that would be an easy one to get through. I bought Maggie O'Farrell's Instructions for a Heatwave, which this is the first Maggie O'Farrell novel that I was intending to read. I've got a couple on my shelves, and again, in my last book 66 haul, I did buy another one, but I picked this one up specially to take on holiday with me, because I just think the front cover gives me holiday vibes, if I'm honest. So that's why I took this one. And then finally, I took with me Razor Girl by Karissa Chen. And again, in my last book 66 haul, you'll notice I bought 4 Karissa Chens. This is actually one that I bought previously that I just hadn't got around to reading yet. But Karissa Chen is really good for doing like comedy books that are not really too deep. You know, so if you just want to chill out and have a bit of a laugh and read something that's a bit silly, this will do the job. So those are the 5 that I decided to take with me. But then, as luck would have it, when I was in the airport getting ready for my very, very, very early flight, the airport bookshop did open. So, you know, I wasn't going to say, like, no, I'm not going to shop in there. Obviously, I wanted to. So instead of picking up stuff that is already on my Amazon wish list or things like that, because to be honest, I could have bought those books before I went away if I wanted to. I wanted to make use of an offer that they had in there, which was buy one, get one half price, which I think they do quite a lot of time, to be honest, in the airports in the UK. I don't know about anywhere else. But I thought I would pick up some books that I'd never really seen before, just so I'd have like the element of surprise. And I had to pick really quickly because, I mean, I had about 10 minutes in the shop before I had to go to my gate. So I picked this book, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I don't know if you can see that very well because of the glare. Now, I've heard a lot of people reviewing this book, and I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about it. So it's definitely been on my radar to try and read. So as it was in the offer in the airport, I thought actually I'm going to give that a go. And then the other one I picked up was called Albert Camus's The Plague. Now, I've got to be honest, this is probably not ideal holiday reading because it is literally about a plague in ex-Nazi Germany, I think. But I thought that the story looked quite good, and whilst I didn't know if I would actually get around to reading this one on holiday, as I'd never seen it before and it looked good, I thought this is one that I want to read at some point, so that's why I thought I'd buy it in the offer. Okay, so now we're travelling with 7 books. Then, whilst I was actually away on holiday, it was my birthday while I was out there, and my wonderful boyfriend had actually taken a separate smaller case with him on top of his normal big case, and in there he had packed my birthday presents, which happened to consist of quite a few books from him and also his family members that had bought me books for my birthday. So this is how we ended up with considerably more. So first off, I received Flashlight by Susan Choi. So this one has just been longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction, and I was actually really interested in reading this book, so I'm really happy that I received this one. It's not that small either, so it's quite a heavy one. I received Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey, and again, this one has just been longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction this year. So both of these have just been longlisted for the award, and I went through all the books that were on the award list, and these were the 2 that sort of stood out to me, and I had mentioned that. So I was really lucky to get both of these for my birthday. The next book that I received, I thought was really, really thoughtful and really, really sweet, because I, as I said, recently did a trip to Book 66, and I had picked up a book called Return to the Dalagot Dream Department Store by Mai Lee. And I hadn't realised that that was the second book in a duology, so I didn't have the first book. So I actually received the first book, Dalagot Dream Department Store, for my birthday. So I was really, really happy about that. I was sort of hoping that I'd be able to read the second one without necessarily needing to read the first one. But you know what, like, it's always nice to have the first book if you can get hold of it. So I was just really, really pleased to receive this actually, because it looks like a really fun read. And then I received, I haven't taken the plastic that's holding these together yet off because it was just easier to transport them, but I received the Thomas Harris collection of the Hannibal books. Now, at the moment, I'm currently doing a rewatch of all the films. I do have all the films on DVD, and I have seen them all multiple times. I really do enjoy them, but I never actually got around to reading the books yet. And my boyfriend realised this and realised that I didn't have them on my shelf, so he thought he would buy these and see if I wanted to read them, and I'm really, really, really pleased he did, because these are definitely on my radar. But there's just so much stuff that I want to read. It's not like there's not good options out there, so I just simply hadn't got around to buying these yet. So I was really, really happy to receive these as well. Then I also received one non-fiction, which was the greenhouse book, because I'm just getting into gardening since last year, and I still don't really know what I'm doing. So yeah, this is going to be really, really, really helpful. But again, this one weighs a ton, so this is probably why he had to bring an extra suitcase, if I'm honest. And then those are all the books that you've actually seen in the intro that I've laid out on the towel. So that's 15 books that are there. But I actually ended up buying another 3 books on my way home, because we flew back through Miami, and I actually noticed there were books in the airport shop. Like, there's quite a few shops in Miami airport that have got some books on display. So I was really keen to go and have a look and see, is there anything here that I want to read that I've seen other YouTubers talk about, but I can't get here in the UK, or I haven't seen in the UK. So the first one that I saw, which I was really, really excited about, because I've not seen this in the UK, and I have since looked, and you can buy this book in the UK apparently, but I thought the cover was absolutely awful when I found it, so I'm actually quite glad that I bought this one while I was in Miami. But it's called Homeseeking by Karissa Chen. Now, I don't know if any of you are watching, there's a book YouTuber called Ian Gubelli, and his wife, Ashlyn, also has a YouTube channel. I can't remember the name of her YouTube channel, but I will put them in the description box down below, because they both make really good YouTube videos and I really enjoy watching them. But they have really, really rated this book, and they've gone on about it several times in several videos. And Ian I particularly follow because he reads a lot of the same things I read, and he's a big Stephen King fan. So the fact that he's out there giving this a 5-star and just kept saying, like, you know, you need to read this book, you need to read this book, made me really want to read this book. But I haven't actually seen it on the shelves in the UK. So yeah, I saw this on display in the airport, and I knew immediately, I was like, I really need to buy this book. So I did. Another one that I found, which again apparently you can get in the UK, but again the cover is hideous, so I'm kind of glad I bought this one in Miami airport, was Angel Falls by Kristen Hanna. Now, Kristen Hanna mainly does historical fiction as to what I've read so far, so I have a lot of her more recent books. I read The Women last year, and that was just an absolutely outstanding read, but Kristen Hanna has been writing for quite some time, and this is one of her much, much older ones, like way, way, way back. I think this was like 2001 potentially. I don't really know off the top of my head. I don't know if I can find the date in here too easily. Yeah, so this is copyrighted to the year 2000, this text. So yeah, this is like 25 years old, 26 years old. So I'm not sure that they're necessarily constantly being published in the UK, but it was in the airport, and I say I like her work, so I thought I'd give that one a go. And then finally, I saw this one, which was called Women's Hotel by Daniel M. Lavery. Now, I've never seen this one in the UK at all. And I read the premise on the back, and the premise sounds really interesting. It seems to be set, I think, in like either the 60s or the 70s. And it's set in New York City in a hotel called the Biedermeier. And it's basically a women's hotel, so it's where apparently there was a few of these through New York City where women who weren't married or living with a friend, like professional women or women aspiring to be professional women, would basically go and live, and there would be like a woman who would be managing the place, you know, with the kind of rules like, you know, you can't have men back to your room and stuff like that, and would provide them like a breakfast. And then they would have like this community within that hotel, but would also go about their own business as well. And I just thought that that sounded really interesting, and I've not really thought about or heard of that kind of setup in the UK. I don't know if that existed, but I do really like, I don't know how to call it. It's not exactly coming of age stories in New York City, but the kind of story where you have a young person who's trying to start out on their career in like a big city. I really enjoy those kind of stories. And I also like sort of books that are doing a social commentary on a certain class or strata of people. I really kind of enjoy those kind of books as well. So this kind of like had both of those things for me. And I have since checked, and no, you can't buy this in the UK as far as I can see. You can only order it over from America, which actually costs more than me actually just buying it in the airport in America. So as you can see, I have actually started to read this one. I'm exactly halfway through, so I won't be able to review this one probably for another few days anyway, but I'm enjoying it so far. So yeah, I was really pleased to pick up some stuff that, you know, I either haven't seen in the UK or never even heard of, like never heard of this. But the one thing that kind of perplexed me a bit when I was buying these books in America is how bad the actual printing quality is. So I think that the Americans in general pay more for their books than we do in the UK, and I don't think we put tax on books in the UK, and I definitely paid tax on these books because it was sort of added in afterwards. But these 3 books cost me like $70 roughly with tax, and that's about £53, and that is really expensive. Like in the UK, I would probably imagine that I would spend about a tenner on this one, a tenner on this one, and as this is a hardback, like 25 pounds. So and that's, to be honest, if I didn't get it off Amazon or something, I could have probably got it off Amazon for like £15, and likewise I could probably got this one for like a £5. So it did feel like I paid quite a lot. I don't mind so much because obviously I didn't have the opportunity to get them in the UK, so I still decided that I was going to spend that money. But then what shocks me is actually the quality of the printing. So like this Kristin Hannah one, like the actual covering is really thin and flimsy compared to the covers of all the Kristin Hannahs I've bought here in the UK. And it's got like that floppy feel to it, which I don't really mind so much, but it does feel like a really fragile book compared to one that's got a harder cover. And I also noticed that, I don't know if you can really see it on here, but do you see that the front cover doesn't quite line up with the pages? It's like a little tiny bit too short. But that seemed to be like the standard of the books that I saw on the bookshelf. The other thing that I kind of noticed as well, especially like with this one, is there's a really nasty, rough feel to the cover. This one is smooth, but this one has got like this plasticky, rough cover, which just really feels awful under your fingers. But as I was going through, like I went through pretty much every store selling a book in Miami Airport because I was in there long enough to do it. And there were so many books with this rough cover, and I was like, that just feels absolutely awful. And I sort of said to myself then, there's no way I would buy anything that I can get back in the UK, that I'm sure I can get back in the UK, unless the cover's really pretty, because I don't know that I can stand to hold the book with the feel of it. So I don't know, like, is that standard in books in America, that they have this nasty, cheap, scratchy covers? Like, I'm not really sure. And weirdly as well, this hardback, this slipcase has exactly that same nasty, scratchy feeling about it. And yeah, like, I don't know what that's about, but I'm glad that we don't do that on our books in the UK, and I hope it's not a cost-cutting exercise that we would think about doing, because at least with this book, to read it, I can actually take the slipcase off. That would be fine. I'd have to do that to read it. But this one, obviously I can't do that with. And the other pain of this one is that I noticed that American books are ever so slightly larger, like taller than the UK books. So here's a UK book. And if I just put, you see, like, I don't know if you can see, but this one is ever so slightly taller than the UK books, which means that the plastic slip cases that I sometimes put around my books, like the ones you see in libraries to keep them safe, won't fit over this one because it's a non-standard size. So I couldn't even cover the cover, if you like, to read it. But it did get me thinking. I was like, I don't know if I just personally really don't like it. Maybe it's part of an autistic thing for me, like not liking the feel. That's one of the reasons why I don't like to read really heavily used books, because I cannot stand the feel of like a completely broken spine on a book. It just really does something to me. But this is kind of the same. And I just thought how autistic people cope with reading books in America if this is the kind of substance they're using on the front cover. I don't know, because it's really quite bad. But I thought that was quite odd, because you're actually paying more for the book, so I would have thought that you would have had a better quality. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that, because like I was quite surprised by that. I've never been into a bookstore in America or bought a book in America before, so this was like really my first experience. I have previously in the past been into a massive bookstore in Canada, and I don't remember encountering covers with that plasticky feel. The covers were similar to the UK, like the materials that we would use on that. But that was also over 10 years ago, so I don't know if things have changed since. Okay, so that's a little bit about how I ended up going away with 5 books, came back with 18 books. Also covered a little bit of a haul. Now, I did say in my book 66 video that you probably wouldn't get another haul off me for ages, because I don't really like to do them so much. However, getting the opportunity to bookshop in a different country, and also, you know, getting a load for my birthday, which obviously have contributed to things that I've read in this last week, I thought, actually, why not? Let's just do another one. But now you're probably not going to get one for a really, really, really long time. So out of all of those books that I've actually shown you, I'm just going to let you know which ones I actually got round to reading. So I read Razor Girl by Karissa Chen. Now, I actually read this one on the plane going out. I read Instructions for a Heatwave by Maggie O'Farrell. I read Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I read Dalagot Dream Department Store by Mai Lee. And I read Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. That 3, 4, 5, yeah. And then, as I've said, I've also started this one now, so this will form in one of the other videos part of the reviews that I'm going to do for all of these books. The other one that I just also want to mention, which I didn't read on holiday, but I've read this book since the last review video, but just before going on holiday, so I will also need to review this one when we get to the reviews, and that's Mrs. March by Virginia Fito, which was a really, really good read, so I'm looking forward to reviewing that as well. So I think the only one that I really want to talk about right now, because I'm sort of more sure of my thoughts on it, is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I think I'm saying that correctly. So this book, as I said, was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction this year. So not shortlisted, longlisted, sorry. I don't think the shortlist for the Women's Prize for Fiction has actually come out yet. So this is another reason why I kind of want to get around to reviewing this one now, because I think that shortlist is due to come out quite soon, and then hopefully the winners will be released by the end of April, I want to say. I could be wrong, but I think that's it. So, as I say, I've heard a lot of good things about this book, and I don't dispute that this is, you know, it is a good book. And essentially we are following a character called Rowan, who ends up getting washed up on this island in her boat. And this island is really in an out of the way place. I think I want to say the Antarctic. I could have got that completely wrong, but I think it's the Antarctic. But essentially it's between like Australia and the, you know, like the South Pole, basically. Don't come for me if I've got them the wrong way around. But yeah, it's an island that's sort of down there, and it takes like several days for a ship to actually get to this island. It's absolutely freezing cold, but it's like got its own beaches, and it's like full of all this really diverse wildlife. And from what I've read in the back of the book, the author did actually base the island on a real island that does exist, but obviously she's fictionalised this one and fictionalised the characters that are on it. So yeah, Rowena Rowe was like in a boat, and she ends up washing up on these really jagged rocks on this island. And this island is populated by a man called Dominic and his 3 children. And there's also meant to be a research station which is full of scientists also on this island, because Dominic is the caretaker of the island. He does this with his children. And then there's, as I said, there's a research facility also on this island where these scientists are studying all the biodiversity and the animals. And they have this seed bank on there, which is really, really interesting. So the premise is that these seed banks, and apparently these also exist in the world, hold all of the seeds that we could ever need, so that if some massive catastrophe happened, then we would have seeds to be able to start growing food again, essentially, and other stuff that we might need, like certain trees and everything for oxygen. So I think the general setting of the story was really, really, really good. I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was very descriptive, and you could tell that she had done a lot of research. I'm not sure if she went to visit the island that she actually based this on in person. I think she probably did, but I really enjoyed the atmospheric descriptions. The descriptions of the weather were really, really good. I mean, like, I was reading this on a beach in the Caribbean, so I was pretty hot. And this is talking about like sub-zero temperatures sometimes, and like battering rain and storms, and I could really feel that I was there. So I would say that that's quite an achievement when you're really, really hot and you're actually sat in the still on a beach, and you're reading about a completely different shoreline, and it's just absolutely chaotic compared to the one you're on. And I could really imagine that I was there. So I thought that that was really beautifully done. I thought that was great. I was intrigued by the story of our main character, like why she sort of ended up on this island in the first place. And obviously then there's Dominic and his 3 children, so we get to start to know them as well. The only thing is I didn't find that the relationships between these characters were like utterly believable to me. Like, I felt the setting was really amazing, and I can almost imagine this being made into a film. But I found that I really liked the relationship between Orly, who is the youngest son, and Rowan. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was great. However, our main character doesn't want children in her life. Like, she's never wanted to have children, and this caused some arguments between her and her husband in the past about her not wanting children. And then she sort of kind of ends up mothering this Orly character quite a bit. And you sort of get the impression, like from what she's saying, that she'll do anything for this little kid, and she seems to put all of her wants and needs to the side to do stuff for this kid. So she's like really, really mothering this child. And it sort of didn't ring true to me, because I was like, if you've had fights in your marriage because you don't want children, I'm not sure that you would just take to motherhood just like that. Just because, I don't know if it's expected of you or what. And it felt to me like the author was trying to shoehorn our character, who didn't want kids, into a situation where suddenly she's just a natural mother and she's taken to it, and that's all she needed to do. She just needed to be given a kid so that she would, want to be a mother in some way. I don't know, like, I just felt that was too easy. Like, she fell into that role far too easily for somebody who actually categorically had stated throughout their life, and nearly broke up her own marriage over the fact that she didn't want children. So whilst I liked the little kid Orly, and I liked some of the conversations that they had with each other, I didn't buy into that overall, this is how she would act. I also didn't really like her, Rowan's relationship with Dominic either. This also seemed really, like, unrealistic to me. And there was no explanation for really any of it, or I just didn't buy it. And again, I enjoyed Fen and Rafi, I think, are the other 2 children, the names of the other 2 children. I did enjoy them, but I don't think we necessarily got as deep into their characters as the others, but I did really enjoy them. I thought that they were good. But again, I found the relationship between Fen and her dad to be a little bit unrealistic. And I just felt like when I was reading this book that the whole setting was absolutely phenomenal and outstanding, but the relationships between all of these very complex characters, I just didn't buy them. They just didn't develop naturally in a way that I felt was believable, if I'm honest. So what I would say about this book is I definitely think it's worth a read. I wouldn't say that I didn't enjoy this. I did. but I would probably score it a 3.5. And I don't think I would be too impressed if this won the Women's Prize for Fiction this year, like the award. Sorry, like I'm just going to say that out loud now. I thought this was a good read, but it is definitely, to me, not on the standard of other Women's Prize for Fiction winners, if I'm honest. So I don't know, obviously I've got this other one to read by Susan Choi, so we'll see if I like that one any better than this one. But this is very, very atmospheric, I'll give you that. Very, very nice images that are conjured, relationships just not believable to me. So yeah, I think this is the only one that I'm going to review in this video. So if you just watch out over the next few weeks, I will release reviews of all of the other books that I've said that I've read today, so that they've all got an opportunity to be reviewed. And so that the videos don't end up in massive, massive long videos, I'll probably split it down and either do 1 or 2 books at a time to review in each video. So yeah, I'm hoping to publish again later this week, but I'm really, really busy and a bit jet lagged since I've come back, as I'm trying to catch up on everything. So I'll do my best to publish another video this week with a couple of reviews of some of these books, but if not, I'll see you again next week. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!